My name is James Butler Hickok, but most people know me better as Wild Bill. If you know anything about me, you know I was a scout and a lawman, serving as sheriff and marshal in some of the wildest towns in the American West. But most people don't know that for a short time I was also an actor. Let me tell you how that happened. By 1873, I was already famous for a few things. I was famous for maintaining law and order in cowtowns full of rowdy drunks, restless residents, and gun-toting gamblers. I was famous for being the best pistol shot in the West. And I was famous for never flinching in the face of danger. But all that fame turned into nothing but worry. People who wanted to prove that they were great men sometimes set out to take me down, and before too long I saw waiting assailants in every shadow and behind every corner. Now along with that worry, my eyes started giving me trouble. Nothing I couldn't bear at first, but over time it caused me quite a bit of pain and gave me trouble with my vision, something I relied upon heavily in carrying out my duties as a peace officer. While Marshal of Abilene, Kansas, I got into a fight with Phil Coe. Phil had drawn an obscene image on the side of his business there in town and refused to change it when I warned him that it was upsetting folks. So I took some paint and corrected it myself, and I guess Mr. Coe didn't think much of me as a painter. His anger eventually led him to draw his pistols, and when I suggested he might not want to do such a thing, he turned them on me. That day I was the faster shot, and as Phil Coe sank to the ground I saw another man with a drawn gun running towards me, and I fired another shot. To my horror, I found that the second man was my friend and deputy marshal. I decided that day that my time as a lawman was done. The good people of Abilene agreed. While I spent the next year gambling and roaming about the West, my old friends Buffalo Bill Cody and Texas Jack Omohundro left the prairies and became stage stars in a play written for them by dime novelist Ned Buntline. At the end of their first tour, they headed back west, both rich and now famous. I joined them to hunt buffalo, and they told me that they were splitting up with Ned Buntline and that they wanted me to join their show. I told them I wouldn't make for much of an actor, and they laughed and said they weren't actors at all, they were first-class stars. Well, I never intended to be a star, but the thought of having a little money in my pocket sounded all right to me, so I told them to expect me in New York when the tour started. When I got to town, I found that Texas Jack had gone and married the famous ballerina, Morlachi, and she had signed on to star with us in the show. After a few performances I demonstrated that I had been right before when I told the boys I wouldn't be much of an actor. I didn't like reading the melodramatic lines in the play. Out on the plains I had never said anything like the line, "Fear not, fair maid. By heavens! You are safe with Wild Bill, who is ever ready to risk his life and die, if need be, in defense of weak and defenseless womanhood." I thought the whole thing was a bit silly, and I think Buffalo Bill and Texas Jack did too, though they took this silliness a lot more seriously than I did. Before long, I got bored with the play and started to find ways to amuse myself. One of my favorite amusements was having fun with the actors that were hired to play the Indians in the play. We were supposed to shoot them and they were supposed to lie down and play dead. But I found that if I fired the gunpowder in my stage pistol at their legs, they rolled around, yelled, and carried on in a way that I thought was pretty amusing. I guess the management thought it was less amusing, and eventually I argued with my friends over what they called my antics. One night in Rochester, New York, Buffalo Bill came to me and said I had to take the show serious that night, as he had moved to the town and his new friends and neighbors would be at the theater that evening. I promised him I would be on my best behavior, and I was, right up until the show started. I fired at one of the Indian's legs, he jumped up and ran off the stage, the audience laughed, and Buffalo Bill's face turned red. We had some words and I decided that there were now two jobs I wouldn't do, lawman and actor. Texas Jack and Buffalo Bill caught up to me that night. Buffalo Bill apologized, they gave me a wonderful gift of 2 magnificent revolvers and a roll of bills, and the 3 of us departed as friends. They knew I had met a woman earlier on the tour named Agnes Thatcher Lake and we had fallen in love. I told them I was determined to earn a fair bit of money, either as a gambler or as a prospector, so that we could settle down as man and wife. I headed out for the West, to seek my fortune, which led me to the Dakota Territory, and a gold boomtown they called Deadwood.